In this episode, fake water, a day at the spa, and no more lug nuts. Welcome back to the We Are Auto Show. Let's roll right into some racing news, shall we?
Let's do it. So we got a little bit of recap from the past weekend, and we got some looking forward to do as well. Let's start by looking backward. So this past weekend, there was NASCAR at Dover.
Oh,
I imagine you didn't watch any of it.
no.
That's fine. Neither did I. Except one interesting tidbit happened. You remember how the NASCARs are with their new tires, their new center lugs?
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have from, I believe, last episode.
Yeah.
Well, there was some shenanigans that happened, specifically in Denny Hamlin's car. And he had problems attaching the tire to the car. And after his pit stop, there was no tire on the car. And he was driving around the racetrack. Not a good look. Now, the interesting part about that, there was a penalty. He had to drive down pit lane. He had to get his tire replaced. And then the broadcaster said something that raised my eyebrow.
Oh.
The penalty was not only to the car for doing a drive-through. That's not a problem. That's to be expected. There was a 4-race suspension for the crew chief, for the tire changer, and the jackman because he lost the tire.
Wow.
Whoa.
That
Escalated.
I forgot my homework, so let me just chop your arm off.
Yeah. So,
God.
I did a little bit of digging, and this rule was put in place when they had 5 lug nuts, and teams were only applying 3 of them to gain an advantage. It's making sense now.
That does make sense.
So, the question becomes, do they change the rule?
They should.
I think that they should.
Because that's just...
Yeah.
That's... Oh, my God.
4 races!
To not just one person, to the crew chief, the tire changer, and the jackman? He's an innocent bystander.
No, because he dropped the car and let it go.
True, fair. Okay, but... Oh, my God, 4 races?
And not only that, but they interviewed like the tire changer after, and he said, we cannot, as these new rims and new lug nuts have come out, we cannot determine if the lug nut is on sufficiently before the car is gone. There's no way. They apply the force, they spin the lug nut on, and if it strips the crap out of it and flies off, they're like, oh, it felt attached to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not very confidence-inspiring if I was a, say, tire changer.
No. So it doesn't seem like this is specifically just Denny Hamlin's car. It sounds like this is going to be an overall NASCAR thing. And I think that there was another team that actually had this happen to them too. Now, Denny happened to be in the lead when this happened to him.
Of course.
Yikes. Yeah, real yikes. But I think that the other car also got the same penalty. Yikes. Feels like this rule should get changed.
That's rough, dude.
Yeah.
4 races.
4 races. Yeah. And the announcer said that on the broadcast. They were like, well, the crew chief's going to get 4 races now. And I went, huh? What? What do you mean?
I'm just flabbergasted that is so... That's like the judicial system here in America that's like, okay, so... A 15-year-old kid shoplifted a Snickers bar, and they send him to like life in prison. It's like, yes, did he do something wrong? But Jesus Christ, that's a wow.
Like IMSA only has 12 to 14 races or something like that in a season. F1 only has 23 races. NASCAR does have 36.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
still,
it's not that big of a deal, but it kind of is. 4 races is a lot. That's a whole month.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about it, if other teams are having this issue, they're going to run out of people to employ.
I think they can find some good old boys in the stands to jack up the car if they need to.
I'm sure they could, but damn.
Would they be efficient? No. Effective? No. But, yeah. Interesting rule, though. Yeah.
Yeah, very.
So that's about all I have in NASCAR. It was at Dover. I think Chase Elliott won. It was rain delayed. The new cars were okay. It's NASCAR. I just wanted to talk about that really odd rule.
Yeah, that is a really very, very odd, strange rule.
Right.
But let's move on to arguably our favorite race series, IMSA.
Okay.
The International Motorsports Association,
Mm-hmm.
right? So IMSA was at Laguna Seca last week. Last week, I guess weekend, I suppose, whatever that was, the April the 30th and May 1st, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And they ran the track of Laguna Seca with the famous
California.
corkscrew, right?
Yep.
So I am super happy with the outcome of this race. As a Porsche fan, I am big happy with the outcome of this race.
Why might that be?
Because there was a Porsche that took number one, and there was another Porsche that took another number one. Hey, now we're talking. So
Okay.
I am super stoked about this race because last race we had some Porsche woes and problems with the FAF Porsche, my favorite GTD Pro Porsche right now. That was when they were the most unlucky car that's ever existed ever, when they had that Corvette single lug nut that in pit row fly over the car into the center radiator and absolutely destroy their whole race. They had to come back and they won GTD Pro.
Corvette did get a penalty for that. I don't know if you heard that.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, they did. They got a equipment leaving pit box penalty, which is a drive-through.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's not race ending.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's not race ending. Although it race ended someone else.
it did.
But FAF Porsche won GTD Pro. Super happy with that. And then I'm also super happy with the GTD entry of Wright Racing, Wright Motorsports. Their first form Porsche, that took number one in GTD as well. That's that blue livery car that I love so much.
Yes. I'll try and find a picture.
I'm super stoked about that because they started at like 10th. So
That's
they
a
had
good
a
run.
comeback from 10th to take the win.
That's a good comeback.
That's a good comeback, but with the drivers Jan Halen and Ryan Hardwick. So well done, boys. That's a hell of a race they ran. I believe it was an Acura that did take the overall, right? I think it was an Acura 1-2 that took the overall.
I think it was the Wayne Taylor, the 10 team.
I think so. I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to really watch it because I'm just busy.
I didn't. I watched the highlights, which can I go on a little rant real quick?
Yeah.
The highlights were the CBS broadcast. Oh, I hate the CBS announcers. I am a stickler for listening to road course motorsports with it feels correct to me to have British announcers announcing that.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
John Hindhaugh is a legend.
He's a god at announcing.
He really is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
The whole
brilliant.
Radio Le Mans broadcast is just directly on top of what is happening. The guys watch timing and scoring like a hawk. So when something happens, you know about it first. And the CBS broadcast just felt like bleh.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah.
They're trying, but it's not not as entertaining. It's not as enthralling. You don't get the voice hikes like John Hindhaugh gives you, where if somebody's about to touch, he's way up in the pitch and oh my god.
Yeah. That inflection, right?
Yeah, the inflection is not there with the bland CBS announcing.
You're
I don't
right.
know.
It's just two cars go into the corner together. They touch, and the Wayne Taylor car comes out in the lead.
Boring.
It is. It really. It does dull down the watching of the sport.
And I saw an article. I don't remember who posted it or where it was on, but they were criticizing the same thing that I'm saying, and they were saying that like the CBS broadcast is holding IMSA racing back from becoming as popular as it should be. It's popular. Don't get me wrong. Like when we go to Sebring, when we go to the Rolex, it's packed. It's big, but it's not NASCAR.
Sure.
And it could be. It should be. It should be better than that. And it debatably has a more entertaining racing. Way more.
I agree. I'd love to see I would love to see IMSA top the charts of what is exciting and new for motorsports and get people to keep watching and more people to watch.
Right. I think that it should be.
Yeah, but that was Laguna Seca.
Yeah. Overall, it was not a bad race. There was some good racing, clean racing. There were, I think, 2 different Mercedes that stuffed it in the wall. I don't know what's going on with them.
Pause. I want to mention that. Why is it that it's always the Mercedes that stuff it?
I don't know.
Wow. Every race that we watch, an IMSA race, it's always a Mercedes GTD that ends up in a wall. Sebring, what was it?
It was a Mercedes.
I believe 2 of them.
Yeah.
Laguna Seca, what were they?
Yeah.
Mercedes. It's always a Mercedes that has a problem.
It's the law of motorsports. I don't know. Why does Ferrari never finish Daytona? I don't know. It's the law of motorsports. It just is what it is.
Fair point.
Yeah. So, cool race, though.
Definitely. One track that I do want to go to, because I really just want to watch cars go up and down the corkscrew.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I totally agree.
But let's move on.
Let's move on to something way different. Well, not way different.
It's different.
Boring. F1. F1 is coming to Miami, which is pretty close to us. And if tickets weren't $5,000 each, we'd go. But they're way more than that. So have you seen what's going on in Miami?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I've seen all the memes that are coming out. The memes out of the F1 Miami race, it just top quality memes. These are some of the best memes I've seen in quite a long time, with how they've designed the track and how they've maybe artificially pumped some ingredients in there.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we have a fake marina in the Miami circuit.
How stupid is this?
It's pretty bad. It's
What's
really
the
bad.
point of it?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I think it's just for the aerial shot, because you're in Miami and you want to have a harbor. But they go to so many circuits where there is actually a harbor alongside the racetrack, and it's real water with real yachts.
Yeah. I don't know. Somewhere named, Monaco?
One of the most famous F1 races
ever, right?
Yeah. I don't know. They, from the sky, they want to make it look like it's water with boats in it. And the announcers are like stepping on it and jumping into the fake water and stuff. And there are a bunch of good memes.
I'll give someone $1 to the first fan that goes to try to do a cannonball into the fake marina during the race.
People were saying that Antonio Giovinazzi should be walking on water.
That's funny. I just could you imagine being the sucker that pays $100,000 to go sit on a boat in fake water to watch the Miami Grand Prix?
No, I cannot imagine.
I'm sure they're selling those marina harbor view spots for an obnoxious amount of money. I'm
for
sure. So could you imagine being the sucker that spent $100,000 or something stupid like that to go sit on some fake water?
No.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
There it is. Some fake water.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
A couple other notes about the racetrack, though. They did bring out, there are going to be 3 DRS zones, which is normally they have 1 to 2. That seems kind of high to me.
Could mean a lot of passing.
Yeah. Fresh pavement should be pretty gripped up, assuming that they actually clean the track off correctly.
I imagine they will.
Yeah. The schedule for the week will be practices all happen on Friday. Qualifying will be Saturday. Race will be Sunday. The race will start at 3:30 Eastern, which is kind of late.
That is.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be like a noon or so start.
No, it's going to be 3:30, which means over in the UK, that's
it's like midnight.
7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. That's
I
really
thought it was
late
later than that, isn't it?
I think it's like a 5-hour difference or something.
I thought it was 8. But either way.
Yeah. It's going to be late for them to watch. But the track is coming along. There's some interesting layout that they have. It's around the Hard Rock that they have there.
The Hard Rock Stadium.
That's fine. But also the cars are going under overpasses. I don't know if you saw that. You see how there's an interstate overpass? They're weaving through that a good amount, which is kind of odd to me.
It is kind of odd.
They're really trying to jam a racetrack in a place that I feel like it shouldn't probably be.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, that's just so weird looking to me.
We'll
see if
it just looks like a tourist trap. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It doesn't look like an international motorsports facility. It just looks like someone was like, hey, I fancy me a racetrack here. Let's just put us in a racetrack.
Right. So it is the Hard Rock or the Miami International Autodrome, which
what a name.
I quickly had to Google what I've heard Autodrome before, but I guess it's just like a racing facility.
What circuits have you heard of an autodrome in?
I think Dubai is the Dubai Autodrome.
So
it's like a European thing.
Well, okay. You know, in my brain, what the connection just got drawn to here?
What?
It's always the circuits where they try to make it look like, or not even just look like, but it's the circuits that pay the most money. So they want the most fancy sounding name, right? Like, you're not just going to go get like a McBurger. You're going to get a delicately crafted lean ground beef patty with a beautiful tomato paste all over the top, right? You're churching up a racetrack is what we're doing. We're just wanting to sound funny because you spend money to make it sound fancy.
Oh, you know that Dubai spent a lot of money on that track.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Miami spent a lot of money. Dubai spent,
Right, but you think about the other tracks like Spa, it has the name. It's just...
But do they call it, at Spa, do they call it the Autodrome?
No.
Agreed.
Silverstone, Circuit of the Americas, like they're not changing, they're not trying to fancy up their name.
Exactly.
I think it's because they have the heritage, though, that they don't need to fancy the name. And if you're a new racetrack, you have to fancy the name.
You think so?
But it's silly. Why not just call it the Streets of Miami?
Something.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah. I agree.
The Interstates of Miami.
Yeah. Yes. I-95.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we'll see. I'll be watching. Hopefully it gives good racing. 3 DRS zones, in theory, should generate a lot of passing, but we'll see. Also, quick note, 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the daytime in Florida.
Ooh,
do you know what happens
I didn't think
at
about
3:30 in Florida?
May, whatever date it's going to be when it happens. Was that the 10th?
Yeah, it's warm enough.
8th, whatever. Not just warm. What happens in the afternoon in the early summer?
It's hot. You get thunderstorms.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And since they're in America, I imagine they will postpone for Lightning.
Which means this race will never happen.
Possibly. It'll depend on atmospheric conditions.
Every single day in Florida, in the late spring to summer, what do we get? Massive thunderstorms. Every single day between the hours of 3 to say 5 p.m.
Yep.
So coincidentally, exactly when they're going to be racing.
I figured that they would have done this earlier, but seems like a silly scheduling.
A round of applause for the Muppets that came up with the timing of this. Did they put it specifically that way so they didn't have to miss their Sunday brunch?
In their fake yacht, on their fake water, in their fake racetrack?
Does that mean they're going to have fake mimosas on their fake yacht in their fake harbor?
Likely so. Yeah.
Well,
so F1 3:30 this Sunday if you want to watch it. Could be a shit show, could be rained out, could be good racing. We don't know.
It's the first time it's ever happened, so let's see. We will report back to you.
Indeed, we will.
Results there.
Is there any other news that we should chat about?
There is some more Formula One news, actually.
Ooh.
And Formula One news that is going to tickle my fancy. Because it's centered around Porsche as well. So apparently, we knew this was kind of a rumor that could possibly maybe be a thing. But apparently Porsche and Audi, they're coming into Formula One as early as 2026. So a few years down the road.
Gut reaction. You ready?
Hit me.
I don't like this.
Oh,
I don't like this at all.
Why?
IMSA and LMDh. I don't like this.
Okay. So I see your point.
Mm-hmm.
I did make a comment on social to someone not too long ago that do I like it? Yes, because it's more visibility for the Porsche brand. But I will hate it if that means Porsche forgets about GT cars and the LMH program.
What will bring more brand recognition? The Le Mans or F1?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is everybody around the world that's not a car enthusiast watches F1.
Yeah.
Everybody who is watches Le Mans.
And I think that this is actually starting to come back to Netflix, which is interesting. Their Drive to Survive series.
Yeah.
Which has really rejuvenated F1.
It's good and bad at the same time.
In a good way. Yeah, it hasn't been bad. And it's telling the behind-the-scenes stories of the drivers and the clashes that are going on, which is good drama. And it's good for them to have that recognition and get people who are not interested in racing interested. But are they getting them interested in the right things? I don't think so. Because the people that get in because of that Drive to Survive series are not going to transition over to IMSA, are not going to transition to the WEC, and will not watch Le Mans. They won't.
Maybe Porsche can convert them.
How?
By magic? I don't know. Don't know.
I don't like this. If it was one brand, I'd be more okay with it. But why duplicate the assets? It's going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, from that statement, Volkswagen's CEO, Herbert Diess, was actually quoted that, you just apparently this quote is that you run out of arguments against entering because they argue that the money they put into F1 is going to be exponentially returned to them.
Exponentially? Really? F1's I could debate with you right now that F1 is a shit show currently.
I agree.
The cars are okay at passing. There's like crypto sponsorships everywhere.
Yeah.
It's messy. But there's eyeballs. And if that's all they care about, then that's what they're going to pour their money into.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So
what's your take?
My take is I don't hate it as long as they don't forget about GT cars and LMH.
I think the writing's on the wall.
Not necessarily, because they've been developing. They've got such a huge development into LMH and LMDh that they're not just gonna waste money and just let that fall to the wayside.
Are you sure about that?
Pretty sure.
I could see a world where they just throw it all into F1 and say, they're not going to take out their GT3 cars, but they're going to take out the LMDh drive because that's going to be expensive. Even though they're doing the homologation and everything, that's going to be relatively expensive.
Well, everything's expensive in motorsport.
Certainly. But if you compare it to a spec cup car, right? The LMDh car is probably 20 of them.
Yeah.
Right? And if you could just do 20 customer cars, make the revenue, you already have the systems in place. You don't need a fancy new team to do all the stuff. You just dump that money over into F1. You get more eyeballs. You get on the Netflix documentary. And congratulations. Porsche is now F1.
I see your point. I will say one note is that apparently Porsche and Red Bull have been talking, and Red Bull is looking to Porsche for their future power plants.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Maybe that'll make them much more reliable than they have been this year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That seems like a boatload of money, dude. Just a boatload of money.
It is.
An engine development program for F1. Oh. You could run IMSA and the WEC, probably off the money alone that is the engine development program.
I think you're probably right.
That's gross. compared to the racing that you're going to get. It's just eyeballs. That's all it is. And debatably, it's a bad audience for their demographic.
I see you're making valid points. I mean, it's true, but I'm a racing and a Porsche fan. So there's still a little piece inside of me that's a little excited, but there's a lot of piece inside of me that thinks, maybe not.
Please, Porsche, do not. And Audi, for that matter. Which I think Audi's already taking away the LMDh program.
Oh, Audi's pretty much done with LMDh.
Yeah, because of this. Please, and they won't say it, but it is because of this. Please, Porsche, don't go down the same path. You need at least one VW brand in LMDh. And I bet you they will keep Porsche. But I bet you that's why Audi got the X.
Yep.
Sad.
Very.
Kind of. All right. Is that it?
Now there's one more race series we got to talk about.
Ooh, there it is.
The WEC.
The WEC.
World Endurance Championship.
What's going on with the WEC?
So the WEC is at the Spa, as a matter of fact.
This next weekend?
It's having a Spa day. Yeah. I believe it's they're going to be racing while we've got some F1 racing going on.
Oh.
And they're going to be racing at Spa-Francorchamps.
Now, didn't Spa just get updated?
I believe it did, which you actually pointed this out to me because I wasn't really super familiar with the updates. But apparently there's been some new updates at Spa to make it maybe safer and better to watch the racing at.
Yeah. So I think that last year, I'm going to pull up an image real quick here. Last year, Spa had a whole bunch of problems. Well, the F1 race at Spa was a hot mess. Another reason why I hate F1. They had 3 laps under caution, and that was the entire race. They didn't refund the fans. I think they give them like a 10% discount on this year's tickets or something dumb. And they also ran into drainage problems. I know specifically at Eau Rouge and Raidillon, which are the famous corners at Spa.
Yeah, the sweeping downhill, uphill corners.
Right. And there, when they had those drainage issues, there was a proper river at the bottom of Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Yeah. So they decided, we're going to tear up the whole track. We're going to redo a whole bunch of stuff. And they actually redid to this. This is like a picture that was taken, I believe, last month. Yeah. And it's from racefans.net, which they took a pretty good photo here because it shows you that there's a whole bunch of runoff at the top of Eau Rouge and Raidillon. And
there's a lot more runoff that may actually save some lives.
Yes. You'll notice on the right side of this photo, at the very top right, there are some lines, and like that's the apex of, I think, Raidillon. I think it's Raidillon. That's at the top of the hill. There's a ton more runoff there. There used to not be nearly that much. And there's also a massive grandstands that they built up here, which is pretty cool.
That would be a really cool spot to watch that race.
That used to just be like a hillside and trees. So that's a great spot for fans to watch. I'm hoping that this lends better racing. From what I've heard, they've tried to keep the elevation of these set of corners spot on.
Good.
Like the same. So they didn't want to change the characteristics. They basically just wanted to change the safety.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's great.
No problem with that.
Yep. Because this is a dangerous corner. And hopefully, it'll be great from the fans' perspective. The WEC will be racing on it this next weekend, which will be good. And they have, I believe, 6 hours?
Yes. 6 hours. The total energy is 6 hours at Spa.
Yes. Now, is there anything unique about Porsche here?
At this particular race, not that I know of. I know Glickenhaus is racing. Alpine's there, Toyota's there, a bunch of GT cars. Nothing particularly exciting yet.
Okay.
But
all right.
There is more Porsche news with the WEC, though.
And what might that be?
Sorry. I know it's a little Porsche heavy there. But Porsche has made the determination that they are going to allocate 4 LMDh customer cars in 2023. So that apparently, from what I'm understanding, is potentially spread across both the WEC and IMSA.
Great.
So we could have the Porsche Penske like factory team, but also some customer teams.
Is Porsche Penske supposed to be in both IMSA and WEC?
I believe so. I believe Penske is the main team running the Porsche LMDh.
So they'll have 2 cars, I imagine, at least.
Yep.
Probably. That leaves a team with 2 cars or 2 teams with 1 car?
That's to be determined. TBD.
4 customer cars. Interesting. Or is that going to be, I wonder if it'll be 2 cars in IMSA and 2 cars in the WEC, so they don't have to ferry them all the way across the oceans all the time.
Well, customer cars would mean that's
Oh, you're right.
privateer team.
You're right.
So, yeah. So
That's good.
The cool thing that I like about this is that it does sound like Porsche's not just kind of forgetting about LMDh, because they're claiming that they are going to be providing support for these 4 customer cars, which it's actually kind of funny. There's a bunch of quotes from the Porsche's head of motorsport. His name is Thomas Laudenbach, and it's funny because he was quoted as saying that it's not actually the goal for Porsche to just sell as many LMDh customer cars as they can, because they want to maintain the integrity behind Porsche Motorsport. And if they can only provide the amount of support, like as they do with their customer teams at like Wright Racing, right? Wright Motorsports and FAF, they don't want to provide a bunch of LMDh cars and just sell them just to sell them. If they can't support the same teams like they support FAF and they support Wright Motorsports, right? So that's kind of a cool way in thinking versus just sell a bunch.
I wonder if I have a different opinion on that. I bet you that it's not so much that they don't want to support all the cars, because they already have a big support network that they could dive into.
But
that's for their GT3 cars.
But for GT3 cars,
yeah,
not for this.
A race car's a race car. Okay? They have wheels, they have tires, they got fenders, carbon fiber, they all pop in and off. Fair. Anyway, I have a feeling that they could support them. But what I think they're doing here is keeping the rarity alive. And I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Because if you had 10 Porsche LMDh cars, this is the top class of Le Mans, it doesn't look good.
Fair.
I don't think that they would allow that. With the time that, who was it? Chip Ganassi brought 4 GTs to Le Mans, it's not a good look. Yeah. You bring 2, no problem. You're good. You bring like 4 plus, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. They're
already going to have a whole bunch of GT3 cars at Le Mans. We know that because it's a good car to race there. That's great. But if you brought 6 LMDh, people would be like, huh? They'd be questioning that.
See your point.
Now, another question will be, will Aston do that? Will Lamborghini do that? Will Ferrari do that? Will Cadillac just say, take 20 DPIs and have fun? Because they would be more inclined to do it and take the rarity factor away. But I think having the rarity factor for a Lamborghini, for a Porsche, for brands like that already are somewhat rare on the road, really works well with the brand.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that take.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see another take. Did Audi walk into Porsche's garage and say, hey, we have 2 customers. We're not going to do this anymore. We're going to go to F1. Have fun.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Porsche may have just got left hung to dry with Audi's leftover customers.
We had contracts with them. Here's the slop. Go figure it out. I bet you that's what happened.
That unfortunately makes a lot of sense.
But I still think that they're not going to go above 4. And I think it's a good idea for the brand.
I think you're probably right about that.
Yep. So interesting news. Very interesting news.
Yeah, lots of different and interesting racing news out there. So do you have any other racing news to chat about?
I do not. Looking forward to F1. Looking forward to watching the WEC cars at New Spa. And yeah, should be sweet.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode then. Thank you all so much for watching on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave us a thumbs up and a comment. If you're listening on audio, so Apple, Google, Stitcher, wherever you're listening, leave us a 5-star rating and a review if you could. We'd be forever grateful for that. Make sure you follow us on social. Facebook's We Are Auto, Instagram We Are Auto _ our website is weareauto.io, where you can catch a whole bunch of past races there, all sorts of cool stuff, and send us your I wish they would love to hear from you. So it's going to be it for this episode. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.